Yes. I first, well, let me go back. We actually remodeled our first home to make wall space so that we could buy some of Rollin's paintings. And we were next door neighbors of very close friends of Rollin and Glenna. And so I was a beginning school teacher, and so we bought them on time. There's no interest. It was like $15 a month. So we'd pay off a painting and then we'd buy another one. And we had several. We happened to go to the fair one year. This was in the early 1980s, and I saw this painting on exhibit. It was the first place winner in mixed media, and I fell in love with it the first time I saw it. It's actually a watercolor of Rollin's father's house with a transfer of an old car on the front of it, and then a portrait of his father as well. In talking with Rollin, I was very interested in the painting, and he said, well, you know, you can buy this and put it in your office, and you write it off as office furnishings. I thought, well, I was sold at that point. So I not only got that one, but several others down the line. So, and up until I retired about 10 years ago, it was in my office the whole time. Now it goes back and forth between our cabin and our apartment in Fresno. It would have been in the late 70s. My daughter was born in 76, so it would have been 77 or 78 is when we started buying paintings. No, it's really, for me, it's really exciting because we've never been in a position where we could do that before. And I was very pleased that Joel was interested in exhibiting the painting, because it is a beautiful painting. Well, because it meant so much to Rollin. It was an interesting painting, and then I even learned from Joel. I didn't realize that it was actually Rollin's father's house that's in the painting as well. So, but it was always, to me, it was a special painting because it was the houses that Rollin did. I had several of them. Were just classic paintings of his during that period, and it was interesting when we got paintings from Rollin, how his style would change over the years. And so we tried in our collection to have some from each one of the periods. So, as I said, his very good friends, the Stearns, were our next door neighbor, and that's how we met Rollin and Glenna. And then we became friends. And in fact, I used to go over and fix their sprinklers. That was one of my little hobby weekend projects. And so whenever they had a problem with a sprinkler system, I was their guy. I'd go over and fix them for them. Oh, his paintings are such a vision of what Fresno used to be. It's still a great community, but areas that are now all homes. Many of us my age remember when they were ditches and old farms and cropland, and Rollin captured a great deal of that, and as well as the neighboring area. We have some of his from the beach, as well as from the mountains. So it's a history of Fresno growing up, I guess you might say. This is probably my favorite. Yeah, because I think it was, as I said, it's an unusual one. The car, I'm an old car buff, was a transfer that you remember when we were kids, we'd take the comics and take a pencil, and well, that's how he transferred the car onto the painting, and he told me that. And then the fact that the portrait, his watercolors have I've never seen another watercolor that has a portrait in it. There are probably some. And the fact that it's his dad, I thought was kind of special. And then I love the houses that he did. My grandparents' house was very similar in style and size, and so it's a very personal painting for me. One of the projects that Glenna had me do was a rack that she used to carry that he could use to display his paintings in, and that she could use when people were selecting paintings. So it was like a magazine rack, but it was large, so it would hold the half sheet watercolors. And she dearly loved that. And I remember every time we would go over to her house to select paintings, it was a real event, because it was just fun, and Glenna would obviously suggest things. And then whenever they came to our house, Rollins' comment was always he had to visit his children, and so he would go around the house and look at each one of the paintings to see and remember, where he was and what the day was like when he was painting them. And it was incredible that he could remember, because he did thousands and thousands of paintings. But it gave you a really good feeling to know that you were providing a home for something that meant so much to Rollin, and it was such a beautiful work of art. So we had one painting, in fact, that for some reason he hadn't signed. He had done these huge acrylics. In fact, I watched him do some in the backyard. I don't know if you've seen any of them, but he never touched them with a brush. He actually rolled the canvas around, and that's how the paintings came out. They're very modernistic. And he hadn't signed one. And it'd been up at the cabin for years, and when we traded houses in Fresno, we got a different house. We brought that one down. So he came over and signed it. It was on the wall. This has been, 10 years ago, I guess, that he did that. So.